Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. The AEW WrestleDream show was entirely too long. It was literally a forever show. Let's get right into it. Most of these matches have no substance to them, so it ought to be pretty easy to do the reviews, but I'm not going to bury the lead. Everybody wants to talk about Edge joining AEW. I said before, Edge joining AEW, they needed it. They needed it in the worst way. They needed something. I will say this. Kudos to Edge, not only for getting the bag, but also for coloring his hair. Because the last time he was in WWE, he looked shaggy and sleepy. So he looked a good 8 years younger with his hair colored. So that was great. Let's just talk about that up front. Wrestlers come and go. I've said that before. He's in a different place now. He's going by his real name. Apparently, he has the rights to his theme song, so that's how he has his theme song. And now he's going to be working in AEW. All of his friends work there, and most of his peers. I mean, he's friends with FTR, he's friends with Jericho, he's friends with Big Show, and all of these guys have been in AEW for a while now. And also, there was some talk that he was going to go there before, and then he decided to have like one last run in WWE, and now I guess he's going to finish up his career in AEW. A lot of people are very excited. I could stand here and talk about how all these people are hypocrites, mainly because they were complaining that Edge was old 3 years ago. And telling people that they're hypocrites does not change their behavior. It only means that you're being vindictive and you're trying to, hold them to a certain standard that they refuse to hold themselves to. The fact of the matter is, he's an important piece for this roster. They needed an injection of new energy. He's no CM Punk. He's actually fairly a guy's guy in terms of the talent, in terms of how he wants to try to help people. He's going to come in and be able to really, really help the brand. They need it. So this is good for AEW. In terms of wrestling, I don't expect him to wrestle that often. I don't expect him to wrestle that much. If we're being honest, the new signings for AEW that they've gotten from WWE, most of them have been people who are, I hate to put it this way, but most of them are used cars. Saraya, Bryan Danielson, Edge, all of them are one bump away from just being done completely. So it's not a big deal for WWE fans who are out there, maybe mincing about this whole thing. I don't know why you would. Why do you even care? But ultimately, Edge is one bump away from being done completely anyway. So let him go ahead and get the bag. He worked very hard for it, especially since he was forcefully retired before. Danielson went through the same thing. So they're having the same career parallel all over again. I don't see Edge coming in to be the world champion. I see him coming in to help the brand and, either develop new talent and, that kind of thing. That would be the reason why he would be there, and it's good for the business. Why it took 18 hours to get there, I'll never know. You could have just put this out there in a press release if you were going to do it. I don't know. I don't care. I don't even care, bro. I've seen so much wrestling today that I really don't want to watch wrestling anymore. Period. But thankfully, despite the fact that it's midnight, I took a nap earlier. So I prepared myself for Tony Khan's attempt to smother me to death with this wrestling show. But Edge just finally showed up. We're not just waiting for the ink to dry on the Sasha Banks reveal, which they also need. AEW needs both of these people very badly because their roster had gotten very, very stale. And they needed something. They needed to bounce back, needed to fight back after, the Jade Cargill thing. So this is pretty big, even though I think that it's a short-term situation. They need Dolph Ziggler to come in too. So, and Sami Callihan is also one of the free agents now. And I know he's a friend of Jon Moxley, so I expect Sami Callihan to come in too. So there's going to be some new talent coming into AEW eventually, even though I wouldn't count Sami Callihan as a talent. He's more like a tortoise. He sucks, by the way. But at least he's a new face. Well, he's not a new face in terms of you had never seen him before. He's a new face in a new environment, I guess, let's say. So expect some of those people to come in. AEW needs to spend the money to get Sami Callihan and Dolph Ziggler if they can, because they need to replenish this roster. It has been ravaged with injury, and it was just time. You know, they needed somebody to replace CM Punk. Edge is the guy. The timing lines up pretty damn good for Tony Khan. You had to fire CM Punk. And I'm pretty sure one thing probably had something to do with the other. He probably spent more to get Edge, knowing he had to fire CM Punk. That would be my mind state on this whole thing, is he spent all the money to get Edge, knowing that he was going to have to fire CM Punk. Or it was a situation where CM Punk was already fired, and he says, I've got to replace him somehow. Somebody's got to run my Collision show. Danielson doesn't want to do anything except wrestle people. He doesn't want to be world champion. I'm pretty sure Edge doesn't want to be world champion either. But somebody needs to be the guidepost for this program. And Edge is a perfect replacement. You know, he has all the positives of CM Punk with none of the negatives. So it's a good thing. You know, he's a WWE long time. He's been there for 25 years or whatever, since 1998. Got a ton of experience in the ring, in the business in general. He worked in creative in WWE. He could really help AEW. There's no history of Edge getting on people's nerves. There's no history of Edge being a backstage politician, him being a bully, of him getting into fights. He was a dickhead a little bit, you know, like all the young guys were. But other than that, in the last 20 or some odd years, it's just been injuries. So as long as he can stay healthy, which means he probably shouldn't wrestle that often, he'll be a good pickup for AEW. It's great. Everybody who feels betrayed, get over it. I don't understand what your problem is. It's just, you know, players go from one team to the other. I don't know how many times I need to say that. Players go from one team to the other. And in situations like this, when a guy has a lot of friends in one company, he tends to follow. You know, again, once you saw Christian was there and FTR was there, you could pretty much guess that Edge was coming in. So there it is. Good decision by Tony Khan. Really good decision. There's a terrible decision to have 14 matches on this program, most of which none of them were worth talking about. And I'm talking main card, you know, because there was 4 matches on the pre-show, only one of which I'm actually going to talk about. The other 10 matches on the show, like maybe 4, 5, or 6 of them were useless matches, and you could have did them on Dynamite. But Tony Khan said it was the end of an era. I guess he meant the era meaning Edge's WWE run, which is great. But, you know, it is what it is. Moving on, let's get into this thing. Tony Khan did an opening ceremony for Antonio Inoki, which was very, very awkward, as he was trying to do one of the Inoki chants that he put on the screen so that people could do it along with him, and nobody did, because nobody understood what this guy was talking about. And everybody's kind of like, yeah, Antonio Inoki, I know who that guy is. Especially if you are an AEW fan. Of course you know who Antonio Inoki is. But do you care? Not really. You know, it's like he's been dead for about a year now or some change. It's not like, you know, you're doing a tribute to somebody who hasn't already been treated like a god for 30 years. I mean, most people really respect Antonio Inoki. I mean, very weird. Anyway, Inoki's grandsons were there. It was very nice for them, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure they were also like, why do we have to fly all the way to, you know, the United States for this? But it's in Seattle. It's on the West Coast. They probably didn't have to fly that far. All right, so match 1. Keith Lee, Satoshi Kojima, Athena, and Billy Starks. What a match. Versus Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Diamante, and Mercedes Martinez. So Keith Lee's team won. Only thing worth talking about here is that Shane Taylor really got some air for a slam by Keith Lee. Keith Lee has been completely and totally forgotten by AEW. He's there, but he might as well not be. Josh Barnett lost to Claudio Castagnoli. This match was fun. I expected this match to be pretty good, and it was. Barnett is no spring chicken, so a lot of it was just really good grappling and some really stiff strikes, which is what I expected. The match didn't last very long either. Moxley was on commentary for this match. He was also on commentary for Yuta's match and Danielson's match. And let me tell you, I like him on commentary. Jon Moxley actually brings something different to commentary. He's good at explaining the strengths of his guys. Like, he talked about the strengths of Claudio, the strengths of Yuta, the strength of Danielson. What are they good at? What do they talk about in training? What do they work on? These kinds of things. He actually adds real life color to this thing, besides the fact that he's humorous. With the swear jar, with him cursing and stuff like that. He cursed on the pre-show and got fined, which was funny. He cursed on the regular show too, like numerous times. But I really enjoyed Jon Moxley on commentary. He got me through some of these matches, man. I gotta tell you, Moxley, he found himself a new job. I like it. I like him on commentary. Barnett loses to an octopus stretch that turns into a roll up. After the match, he tells Claudio he's got high expectations for him, and he's the kind of guy that Inoki would have liked, and that he owes him a little bit more time, so they're gonna do that again. I'm like, okay, sure, if you say so. Luchasaurus defeated Nick Wayne, which, if you actually saw this match and then saw the main event, wouldn't make no sense to you, right? Why would Luchasaurus beat up Nick Wayne and they're going to be friends at the end of the show? I don't know. I ain't Booker of the Year. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn defeated TMDK. Bad Dude Tito didn't do that much in this match. They made a slapjack joke, and Max Caster made a slapjack joke. Of course he did. Of course he did. All right, the main card, MJF defeated the Righteous by himself by doing a heat seeker on Dutch. He cut a promo saying that he was going to shove Vince's head up Dutch's ass. He was going to body slam Dutch, and he did all of those things. So he basically just embarrassed these guys. We spent 3 weeks getting the Righteous over, or at least trying to anyway, just for MJF to beat them by himself. Very odd decision making. What a waste of time this was. He, of course, denied being the guy who attacked Adam Jay White. He said that his mask was stolen from his luggage or whatever. They did the rule of three when it comes to storytelling. When they tried to have MJF body slam Dutch the first time, he couldn't even lift him. The second time he lifted him, but Dutch was too heavy, he came down. The third time he actually slammed Dutch. So that was fine. The finish was stupid. I mean, these guys can't beat MJF by them. This guy's 5'8", all right? I keep saying that because MJF, he's in good shape. He goes to the gym, which is more than what most people do, especially the guy in the next match. But for Christ's sake, he's 5'8", and you can't beat him by yourself? And you're the size of Dutch? I mean, come on. Let's move on, though. Eddie Kingston defeated Katsuyori Shibata. The match was better than I expected it to be. Eddie Kingston, or I call him Edie Kingston, is a beached whale. He just absorbs a lot of damage, and that's pretty much it. You kick him, hit him, whatever. He'll occasionally throw a suplex in there. He'll occasionally do a spinning back fist, but for the most part, Eddie Kingston just lays around and gets kicked, and that's pretty much it. That's the bulk of the match. You could have put this anywhere else. These first two matches, completely pointless. Why are they even on this show? Third match, Chris Statlander versus Julia Hart. Chris Statlander wins with 2 tombstone power drivers. Julia Hart didn't look too bad, and this wasn't a bad match. The card is very crowded, so I would beg them to actually do this on TV. But as far as the match was concerned, from what we saw, it wasn't that bad. The fourth match on the show was the number one contender tag team for the tag team championship. The Gun Club versus the Lucha Brothers versus Orange Cassidy and Hook, and the winners were the Young Bucks. This pissed off a lot of people because they're tired of the Young Bucks getting title shots, especially since they just won the 6-man titles, and they're pretty pissy about this. They wanted Orange Cassidy and Hook to win. Orange Cassidy and Hook aren't even a real tag team, but that's what the people wanted. Every promotion eventually devolves into the guys who are the bosses putting themselves over. That's 99% of wrestling promotions that have ever existed. So yeah, the Young Bucks are, saying we're top guys, we're going over. Apparently Phoenix got injured in this match. Apparently Phoenix was injured before this match, as Lucha Blog says that he was actually taken out of some dates from Mexico as well. So I guess we got to do something about Phoenix and him having a title, because Phoenix is injured, which Phoenix is always injured. This match also could have been done on television and did not need to be on this pay-per-view. But it was typical Fatal 4-Way match. Everybody was everywhere. I was like, oh my God. Didn't even try to figure it out. The fifth match on the show, Swerve Strickland defeated Hangman Page. This was really good. Some really good offense from Swerve. His smoothness when he did his little what they call his seamless offense, where I think he did like the Shelton Benjamin's pay dirt and he rolled it into a suplex or something like that. It was really cool. He did a buckshot lariat counter into a drop toe hold, and then hyperextended the arm and started working the arm. I don't understand why guys, when they work a body part, they'll do something like a moonsault on just the arm. Like he did like a 450 splash on just Hangman Page's arm. Why? Why? Why go through all the trouble? It's very silly. Prince Nana ends up saving Swerve Strickland after a buckshot lariat. He put his foot on the ropes. Then he was ejected, and while his back was turned, Swerve was cheating. He then ends up hitting the JML driver to win this match. Good match, right decision. Swerve needed to win. He needed to be elevated. A lot of people are really trying to, I can't believe WWE thought Top Dollar was the star of Hit Row. It's like, that's not what happened. Remember, when Hit Row was fired, everybody was fired, including Top Dollar, including B-Fab, who was fired before the rest of them were, and including Ashaki Theodonis. But when they were re-signing these guys, Swerve had already jumped ship to AEW. I guess he already promised he was going to go to AEW, and the other ones were brought back. That's what happened. It's not like they fired only Swerve, and then that was it. So Swerve is finally getting a big push. I'm a fan. I like him. He really needed this win. I don't know. He needs to get in a title picture. If they have to do something with Phoenix in that international title, he needs to win that. All right. Swerve needs a belt. He needs to be elevated on the roster. He's really been intriguing the last couple of weeks. He's doing a really good job, and he needs to be rewarded not just with this win, but also with a higher position on the roster. So he needs to win a title. He needs to be a part of something. Hangman Page, for his credit, he actually did pretty good here too. He was no slouch. I don't like Hangman Page that really, but he's a decent worker. All right. Next, Wheeler Yuta and Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks won the match. Wheeler Yuta has no business being on this pay-per-view. What made this made me laugh about this is Moxley on commentary telling him, make him pay for that shit. And then he also said he doesn't care about the matches Wheeler Yuta wins now. They're thinking about the matches Wheeler Yuta is going to win in 2 years. So they're saying, oh, all this stuff is just an investment into the future. It's okay for Yuta to lose. We're just investing in his future. How old is this guy? He's got to be like in his mid-20s, right? In a wrestling match, you can break your neck at any time. You should care about his wins and losses if he's a professional wrestler right now. But I guess everything's fine. If the guy who's, running the gym says fine, then it's fine, All right, Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. I got to give Bryan Danielson credit. He got me into a Zack Sabre Jr. match. Look, Zack Sabre Jr. is still the Doug Funny of pro wrestling. I still think he has no charisma, and his attempt at personality is more of a mockery than anything. But he's a solid hand. He's a good hand. Very much a Lance Storm type. Except for he might have a shade more personality than Lance Storm. I really enjoyed the grappling in this match, which is what they sold the match on, was the technical aspects of it. And I really enjoyed that. So they at least delivered on the who's going to be the best technical wrestler. I don't really care about the stakes because there are none. I don't really care about Zack Sabre Jr. because he's not going to be there the next week anyway. So what difference does it make? If whether he wins or loses, he's not going to be there. So it didn't matter to me whether he won or lost. I have no investment in that guy. I will say though, he worked his part of the story pretty good, and that is put Bryan Danielson in some holds and let's watch Danielson try to get out of them, or let's watch Danielson suffer and, work on our sympathy as they work on the injured arm of Danielson. And you got Moxley on commentary telling the story of, oh, Danielson's more of a reactive wrestler. He doesn't mind you getting him in a move because he wants to try to wrestle his way out of it. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Again, telling the story, telling you about Danielson, what Danielson's strengths are. Moxley, thumbs up. He should probably do commentary a lot more often, But that's what Zack Sabre Jr.'s job was, is to put Danielson in jeopardy through his submissions and different things like that. And then we can watch Danielson fight from underneath. For the most part, it was underneath. They kept the strikes to a minimum, the kicks, the punches. They did some, but they kept them to a minimum. They also kept a lot of the moves to a minimum. So there was no big slams, not too many of those. There were some, but not a lot. So they really told a technical wrestling match, a good grappling contest. This and the Josh Barnett-Claudio match, they did a really good job. This one was, of course, of a higher level because Danielson has more sympathy and is actually, there's no story involved in either one of them. Both of them are kind of special challenges. Danielson ends up winning the match with the Busaiku knee, which he hit twice. Nigel McGuinness is a hater and starts saying that Danielson won the match, but he didn't win the match with a submission hold or a technical hold. He won with a strike. So technically, Zack Sabre Jr. is still the best technical wrestler in the world. Okay, if you say so. I didn't know it was if that's what that meant. But my favorite part of this whole match is when Zack Sabre Jr. had Bryan Danielson in the omoplata. And and after claiming that Danielson was going to have to put money in the swear jar because he said he's going to kick Zack Sabre Jr.'s fucking head in, Moxley is on commentary screaming, yeah, fuck that guy. he was so good. Oh, God, he was so entertaining. So that match actually delivered. I still don't like Zack Sabre Jr., but at least they delivered what they promised on that. Konosuke Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay defeated Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and Kota Ibushi. It happened exactly the way I said it should happen, with Sammy Guevara pinning Chris Jericho. It was very necessary that happened because Guevara needed to win. All right. Yes, they cheated. Of course, they cheated their heels. So what? But it was a typical 6-man tag in AEW where there's people everywhere. They're jumping, they're flipping, they're doing double moves. Ibushi still looks kind of washed. I don't know what's going on with him, but he doesn't. He looked better here than he looked in the past in AEW, but he still comes across as unmotivated and kind of washed up. It's very unfortunate because I like Kota Ibushi. He just doesn't come across like he's hungry, And Jericho is Jericho and Omega is Omega. All right. The 9th match on the show, Aussie Open were defeated by FTR. I didn't need to see this match at all. This match was long and boring. Aussie Open missed a shatter machine. They looked like crap. FTR then proceeds to spike power drive the fat guy from the team, the fat butcher looking dude with the mustache, that guy. They power drived him on the ring apron. And then they went in the ring and killed the other guy with a different move. So if you thought these guys were in any way competition for FTR, had you fooled. They were not. Then the main event, Christian Cage defeats Darby Allin 2-1, winning 2 straight falls at the end after Darby pinned Christian in the first fall by pulling his shirt over his head, which was legitimately humorous. That was legitimately humorous with the jackknife pin. That was nice. Christian then proceeds to try to murder Darby Allin by suplexing him on the steps. And I'm not talking about on the flat part of the steps. I'm talking like on the steps, the actual steps. Why would he let him do that to him, for starters, once, let alone 2 or 3 times? What is wrong with Darby Allin? You know, this must be like a fetish or something. He must get something out of this, because this guy, to be the age that he is, I think he's still barely 30, to just destroy his body this way, this literally doesn't make any sense. You could have gotten just as much sympathy out of one. Didn't let him do this multiple times. He picked him up and he tried to suplex him on the steps, but the steps were too far away. So Christian just threw him to the floor. Okay, same effect. So then he picked him up and then threw him on the steps. Then he picked him up again and threw him on the steps. And then he left him out there to get counted out. That's how he won his first fall. So then he got the second fall by, for starters, doing a frog splash on the stretcher. They was going to stretcher Darby Allin out. Then Christian ripped up the ring. So now that half the ring is naked, so there's nothing but wood visible, he hits the kill switch on the wood ring and only gets a 2 count because Darby Allin is invincible. The smaller you are in AEW, the more invincible you are. This led to a lot of chicanery as the referee gets taken out. And now, Christian goes against the belt. He's going to hit Darby with the belt. Then Nick Wayne snatches the belt. Christian had been taunting Nick Wayne's mom, who threw water in his face earlier in the match. So you're thinking that Nick Wayne is yelling about, "You do this to my mom? What you talking about my dad?" And then he blasts Darby Allin in the head with the belt, turning on Darby Allin. This makes sense because of the AR Fox situation, which, if you've been following the story, that makes sense. So Nick Wayne blasting Darby Allin in the head with the belt. Christian gets the pinfall. He wins the match. But then Nick Wayne and Christian decided they were going to stomp and smack on Darby. Nick Wayne is pissed off at Darby Allin for how his parents has been treated in this whole situation and what's all that's been going on. And Christian is there, being the devil in his ear, putting his arm around him and all that kind of stuff. It was very good. I was miserable by this point, so I was being very negative, but it was a good story. Then of course Sting and Luchasaurus, they all come out, they're all fighting. So eventually the heels are outnumbered 3-2. Christian's gonna cave Sting's skull in. When the lights go out, you think you know him, not you think you know me, but you think you know him. And Adam Copeland, the rated R superstar, which I guess he owns the trademark to that too. In any event, Edge comes out there. He's still just going to be Edge to me. I don't care what they call him. And he teases that he's going to join the Christian Coalition. I'm going to call it that because what else would I call it? So Edge teases caving Sting's head in. Then he uses the chair to fight off Christian and Luchasaurus and all these guys. So Christian bails, Nick Wayne bails, Luchasaurus bails, and Edge is in the ring. Everybody's very excited. He shakes hands with Sting. He shakes hands with Darby Allin, and him and Christian have a stare down to end the show. And then, of course, the All Elite graphic comes out at the very end, right before I started this video. I do not care about what's said in the scrum. If something important is said, I'll have to do another video tomorrow. But in terms of this show, it was a whole lot. It was a lot of a lot. Tony Khan just does not know how to structure a show. You don't need this many matches, especially this many matches of which there is nothing on the line. There's nothing to be gained. Or if you're going to do something, like if you're going to have Nick Wayne join Christian, how about he not fight Luchasaurus earlier? How about that? Because he just got destroyed by this guy, and now they're friends literally like 4 hours later. Did they talk it out? After, you blasted me in the head with a lariat, but we're buddies now. He was mad at AR Fox, but he's not mad at Luchasaurus for just, damn near killing him. I understand why he would be mad at Darby Allin. I'm just not sure why he would team up with Christian. we'll figure that part out. The Darby Nick Wayne scenario is fine. Christian and Edge are going to do their thing. That's cool too. It's been a long time since they had matches against each other, and since they worked together at the same time. So it ought to be great for them to have their last hurrah together, along with the Hardys and Jericho and all that. Ought to be great. But Ricky Starks and Yuta didn't need to be on this card. The Righteous didn't need to be on this card. The Fatal 4-Way didn't need to be on this card. That's 4 matches out of 10 right there you could have cut. We really didn't need Aussie Open either. Could have cut them off too. So, there's a lot of people who didn't need to be here. And the amount of time that he gave these matches, most of these matches were pretty lengthy. The main event was pretty lengthy. So was Hangman and Swerve. But Hangman and Swerve was at least one of the matches that you booked the show around. And of course, you're going to want that match. And of course, you want Danielson and Sabre Jr. to have some time. You booked your show around that match. But you didn't book your show around Wheeler Yuta and Ricky Starks. So why is that there? And who cares that it is? Of course, you want to find a way to get Omega on the roster. So, you want to get Omega on the show. So there's reasons why you would do this, but this show could have been significantly shorter and probably would have hit harder if the show was shorter. All right. Rather than dragging all this stuff out. You don't need to bring every toy you have all the time. Just get the ones you want to play with, the ones that are most important. You didn't have to bring Athena and Billy Starks to the show. Like, come on. Are you serious? Now, if it's on the pre-show, we definitely didn't need it. But if it was on, I'm just talking just of things on the main show. But we could have cut out every match on the pre-show, and this show still would have been too long. So everybody got what they wanted. They got Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson. They got Edge. I still think they're working on the Mercedes Moné thing. She's probably still injured. But she's going to come in when that's over with. And we might actually have a new and improved AEW. And they needed it because they were been looking rough the last couple of weeks, especially on Collision. So I expect Edge to be probably used on Dynamite, then get put on Collision to be the tent pole there, and so everybody can see him. Again, I expect him to just be the guy that's going to replace CM Punk. That's good on their behalf. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.